Welcome to Cinema Bites, your go-to for movie recaps in a flash. Big twists, epic moments, all in just minutes. Our movie begins with a shot of the legend Cristiano Ronaldo playing in a match, scoring goals repeatedly, with no one from the opposing team able to take the ball from him. Watching the match is a young boy named Christian with his mother. He tells her that he dreams of one day playing football with Ronaldo's skill. His mother encourages him, saying that to reach that level, he needs to train very hard to prove himself and his skills to his coach so he can earn bigger opportunities to play and not just sit on the bench. She explains that this is the only way he could eventually join the national team. Christian tells her that he feels in his heart that he will one day play for the national team and that it's not just a thought in his mind, but a goal he genuinely believes he will achieve. His mother encourages him further, saying he must give his all to reach his dream. She then goes back to her work on her laptop but rushes out when she hears Christian shouting excitedly that Ronaldo has scored another goal. Christian is in awe of Ronaldo's performance, declaring him the best player in the world. His mother wants to see the goal replay, but Christian refuses and instead reenacts the goal for her. He grabs his ball, imitates Ronaldo's moves, and attempts to replicate the goal. However, he accidentally kicks the ball into a window, breaking the glass. His mother doesn't scold him, as she seems used to his antics, and instead tries to encourage him and boost his confidence to help him achieve his dream. Later, Christian goes outside to retrieve his ball and runs into their neighbor, Mr. Frank, who asks about his father. Christian's mother, who had also stepped into the garden, joins the conversation. Frank asks her about her husband, Giorgio, and comments that the country needs heroes like him in various fields. It's revealed that Giorgio is a soldier on a mission abroad, and they haven't heard from him in a long time. Christian's mother asks Frank to take Christian along to football practice with his sons. Christian, however, is unhappy about going and feels upset that his father isn't there to watch and support him. At practice, Frank convinces the coach to let Christian join the training to observe his skills, as during their walk, Christian had demonstrated his deep understanding of football tactics and strategies. Frank believes Christian has great potential for the future. Initially, the coach is reluctant, thinking Christian is emotionally unstable due to his father's absence and his mother being busy with work. Eventually, the coach gives Christian a chance and allows him to train with the team, though Christian was initially tasked with just collecting balls. During practice, Christian tries hard to score a goal and control the ball like Ronaldo, but it's clear he has a long way to go and needs more training. Frank's two sons are much better than him. That night, when Christian's mother checks on him before bed, she finds him upset because he couldn't score any goals during practice. She is surprised and happy that the coach finally gave him a chance, seeing it as a big step forward. She tells Christian that even though he didn't score today, tomorrow will bring new opportunities and he should keep trying until he achieves his dream. She encourages him not to give up. Christian then expresses how much he misses his father, feeling his absence deeply, and goes to bed upset. The story shifts to Giorgio, who is on a military mission in the mountains of another country. His battalion is under attack and their leader is injured. The situation looks grim. The next morning, Christian trains in his garden with his teammate, who is the goalkeeper. They make a deal. If Christian scores a goal, he'll get the chocolate his friend has. Christian tries repeatedly but fails to score, and the ball ends up in their neighbor's garden. The neighbor angrily scolds Christian, telling him to stop playing football if he's going to keep breaking things, as he had previously damaged their rare plants and caused other trouble. Chris promised that he will not do that again. At that moment, this was in a match between one team and another team in a competition. The team that wins is the one that will be able to participate in the local championship. The opposing team is the one that controls the ball, always scoring, and the coach, Dominic, is never happy with what is happening and decides to give Chris a chance, and he'd go down to play a goal, and his mother supported him, but when they returned home, she was very upset that George is not with them, but Chris reassured her. At that time, George was on his mission, and the situation was very dangerous inside, and his secretary had been locked up in the place they were in for days. They did not know how to return to the base because the enemies surrounded them, and every now and then, they would shoot at them, and they hadn't eaten from a long time, and suddenly they were attacked, and George was injured. And we go back again to Chris after his mother arrived him at the school and received a call from the army, informing her that George is dead. From the shock, she could not see in front of her and had an accident, and they took her to the hospital, and at the end of the school day, she was late for him and Frank, who came to take him from school, and an hour later, he knew that she had an accident and was in the hospital. Her condition was critical, and she would stay in the hospital for a while until she recovered. At that time, Frank took him and stayed with him at his house the next day before he went to training. Frank took him to a sporting store to buy him new shoes, suitable for playing, but he asked the store owner to find him something free or cheap because he won't be able to afford them, especially since he has two sons for whom he came to buy them anyway. Anyway, the store owner remembers that he has a shoes that came from the factory that has a defect or its shape is a bit strange. So he decides to give it to Chris and he says, "I know it looks strange, but try it. Maybe it will be the right one for you." And actually, when he saw the shoes, he felt that it was old. But as soon as he put it on, he noticed that it had lines like gold shining on it. After that, they go to training, and Dominic, the coach, makes him play again that day. Here was the surprise. As soon as Chris put on the shoes and put on the ball, he was scoring goals and literally not a single shot was missing from him. This impressed Frank and Dominic, and who decides to make him play all the time and not just be a player on the bench. At that time, his mother was in the hospital watching the news of the Army. She needs to hear good news or anything positive that happened. But at that moment, the nurse reassures her by sharing a story about her own father, who was a soldier missing during the war. Everyone thought he had died, but he eventually returned after many years. The nurse advises Christian's mother to stay strong because her strength will inspire her son, giving him the courage and confidence he needs. Back at football practice, Christian is on the bench as usual, while his team is losing 2-0. In the second half, the coach decides to let Christian play, replacing one of Frank's sons. What happens next surprises everyone. Christian scores multiple goals, including a penalty kick, and even makes a spectacular goal reminiscent of those by top players. This angers Frank, as Christian outshines his sons, stealing the spotlight. Frank leaves with his sons in frustration. Meanwhile, a talent scout watching the game is impressed by Christian's performance. He takes Christian's name from the coach and leaves. That night, Christian sneaks into Frank's house to call his mother and check on her. When Frank catches him, Christian quickly hangs up and pretends to be asleep. Frank forces him to sleep on an old bed in the basement. But Christian doesn't care about his living conditions. His only focus is on his parents and proving himself to make them proud. After he sleeps a little, he suddenly wakes up to Frank's move. He takes his new shoes because he felt that they were the reason for his skill that appeared on him once. Whenever he does something, Frank tells him that he was cleaning them for him. Then he leaves them and goes out again. At that time, the coach was watching the news of the national team. He knows that the team's situation is difficult after its defeat by the Brazilian team and that they might not enter the World Cup for juniors. At that moment, he makes calls and talks to one of his friends and tells him about Chris and to give him a chance, even though he knows that the test to enter the national team ended a long time ago. But he had a feeling that he would still be the joker and the one who would get her through to victory. The next day, Lynn saw Chris's picture in the newspaper under the news of how talented he is and how possible he achieves the impossible. And all that was talking about his legendary match, despite his young age, was her joy. She kept crying and called Frank to talk to Chris, but Frank refused to answer her as soon as he saw the hospital number. Then Chris's team entered the league, and they were playing to win. At the beginning of the match, the opposing team was controlling the ball and scored 2 goals. This made the coach nervous. After he said a few words to them, he encouraged them and told Chris to focus on any opportunity that comes his way and score a goal. Christmas actually does that at the time when they weren't talking about the clothes they came to see. 2 days ago, we came to see the little boy. At first, he wasn't interested, and nothing caught his attention. In Chris's game, we worked on the phone until he scored a very nice goal that made him change his mind and think about including him in the national team. At that moment, he pressed it while he was celebrating. He raised his t-shirt like he saw the players doing. It was written on the t-shirt below, "For my mom and dad." The journalists were filming this scene. In the end, when Chris makes the team win and they take the cup, the coach celebrates and treats them to pizza. His picture is published on TV and the sports news, and everyone starts talking about this miracle child. His mother sees him on TV, and she was very proud of him and calls Frank, but he still doesn't answer her as usual. Here it becomes clear how much he hurts Chris and others because of his success and resents him and tries more than once to take the new shoe from him under the pretext that he will get him a better one. But Chris refuses, and they say that he is happy with it. And the news of the cleverness even reaches the White House. And the president himself asks, "What is the story of this boy?" And then one day he is beaten in his garden. And if you want all the shots he makes while wearing the new ones that are 100% successful, or when Niall tries, he wears his old shoe to make sure he finds that he does not know how to shoot and does not shoot correctly and does not make sure that the secret is in the shoe. At that time, Frank Webb was watching him, and he watches him from behind the tree and knows the secret of his talent that appeared once, and he plans how to take this shoes from him in the next match. As usual, Gareth breaks all expectations because they were facing a very strong team, and he was greatly controlling the ball, and they were going to win. But Chris gets the chance in the last moments of the match and scores his goal, 2 and 3, and this makes him the focus of the press and media and talent scouts, and his news is broadcast all the time on TV. He is his mother, and she is following all of this, and she was very happy, and her psychological state became much better, and she started to regain her health again. Frank was not relaxing himself. Every time he had the opportunity, he searches for Chris's shoes to take it, but every time Chris entered at the right time, and Frank gets confused and walks and tells him that it is a different place anyway. He was looking for something anyway. He says anything. And when Christian understands this, he starts sleeping while wearing the shoes so that Frank doesn't know how to take it from him. And the captain, when she calls this time, Frank finally answers her, but doesn't answer. Let her talk to Chris under the pretext that he doesn't want to be exposed to pressure and distraction, especially since the upcoming match is very important in the White House. The president knew everything about Chris and started thinking that the army must act and find George and attend the upcoming match for Chris, and also send his assistant, who was Lynn in the hospital, to talk to her and support her. And not only that, he holds a press conference in which he announces that after a special forces team from the army, they managed to reach George, and now he is on his way to the country. The real hero of this story, and Chris, who encourages them, was able to help his family indirectly, and the president saw that this voice unites the entire people, and all the colors must support each other between the press conference, and he has an important match that he must attend. And here he cuts, of course, the match of the championship in which Chris participates. At this time, the captain was watching the conference, and she did not comprehend what was happening. And George was really happy, and from her joy stops on her legs again, and she goes to watch Chris's match. But after Chris got ready and prepared, he comes out of the basement in Frank's house to discover that Frank locked the door, and Frank says to the coach that Chris is very tired and couldn't attend, while Chris was calling for anyone to help him. And indeed, his neighbor, who was always destroying his plants, heard his voice and went to help him. And when he knew that Frank was the one who locked him up, he broke the basement window and took him out, and Chris thanks him very much. But he decides to help him until the end, and they take him to take his car to the stadium. And at that moment, Chris is surprised that his garage is full of footballs, and this makes him wonder how he has all these balls and hates football so much. And he tells him that he was an international player, but he had an accident and broke his back, and he can't play football anymore. And he enters it all the time angry and upset, and he doesn't like to see anyone playing it until Chris comes and changes his mind again. And they take him after that to take him to the stadium quickly. The situation was very difficult because the opposing team was scoring goals, and no one from Chris's team knew how to confront or even defend, and that was a big problem. Chris arrived at the right time, but there was another problem. He didn't have his magic shoe that made him score goals all this time, but the coach told him that the secret isn't in the shoe, it's in his heart that makes him win. He can't take that away from him. At that moment, Chris cheered and went down to the field in the last moments and was able to score the winning goal in the last minute. The field was full of celebrations, and Chris's team won the National Soccer Championship for the first time in its history. For his joy at winning, his father and mother, both of them, were finally in front of him, very proud of him. But as soon as he finished, he saw Frank punching him in the face and knocking him to the ground because of what he did to her son. In the last scene, while they were celebrating, Matthew came and told Chris that he would play for the American team and that they would be lucky to have a player in his skills and his courage for the national team. The film ends with the message that nothing is impossible. With persistence and determination, even the most challenging goals can be achieved. There's no magic formula for success. It comes from passion, love, and the desire to prove oneself. Just as the coach told Christian, the secret isn't in the shoes, it's within you, in your heart full of passion and love for the game. And that's how our story concludes. Don't forget to support us with a like, share, and subscribe to the channel, and activate the notification bell to stay updated with